Alrighty, we are online. Hello everyone, my name is Chengeer. I'm a workforce specialist at JVS Toronto. At JVS, we have a team of dedicated professionals who help companies in their hiring needs. And today, I'm very pleased and honored to welcome Dean Kulaweera on our little show. So, would you please introduce yourself? How are you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chengeer, and pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone, and yeah, great to be here, and thanks so much for inviting me to join in. I'm very eager and happy to share my insights and my background to see if I can help your clients.
Great. Could you please tell about yourself a little bit? Like, what's your expertise?
Yeah, sure. So I work in I'm a recruiter, so I specialize in the IT recruitment industry, and I have been exclusively recruiting for that sector. So in terms of within IT, I recruit for everything from technical as well as non-technical roles. So on the technical side, software developers, software engineers, QA analysts, and then more so on the non-technical side, you have the project managers and business analysts, and
Mhm.
everything in between, and in a variety of sectors within information technology, as well as other industries that hire IT people for their organizations.
Interesting. Thank you. How did you get yourself into this industry? What was your journey?
Yeah. So it was. I got into it by mistake. So I graduated. My first taste of
Who
recruitment
didn't,
was
right?
yeah,
I like
and
it. I
and
like the intro by
yeah,
mistake.
yeah, that's right. And I was actually lucky because I happened to get into it by mistake, but I just fell in love with it, and I really love what I do. So I graduated from York University with a bachelor's in information technology, and I graduated during the time when we were just coming out of a recession. So there weren't, I mean, it was extremely competitive, like the marketplace. So I ended up, doing some IT contracts. Like I was doing contracting, but at the same time, I also by kind of through my network, I was made aware of someone who was working at an organization, and they reached out to me. They're like, "Hey, Dean, I'm looking for such and such people. You're in IT. Can you help me out with that?" So then I kind of moved into kind of running my own consulting business, and then I started doing recruitment and helping out and kind of learning recruitment from the ground up myself.
Okay.
When I first started out, I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew is, I had to find people. I had to make sure they have the right skill set fit, and then, presenting people for the role. So I was running that business for about I believe 4 years. And then unfortunately after that the business failed, and so I had to move on to something else. So for about 2 years after that, I was working exclusively in sales positions. So I was working in automotive sales as well as IT sales. I was selling IT hardware, and after that I realized, I cannot stay from recruitment, because all I thought about was, okay, how can I get back into recruitment? So 2016 I got back into recruitment. I started out at a smaller agency, and then eventually got into my most recent place of employment back in 2018, which is with Robert Half Technology, where I've been working. And unfortunately, currently, as I explained to you, Chengeer, due to the COVID-19 situation, we had mass layoffs around a week and a half ago, and
Okay.
about 150 of us were affected. Unfortunately, I was one of them. It is a temporary layoff, but for now, I'm not working with Robert Half or anyone else. So uh, that's my summary in a few minutes.
So what's the story? How did it happen? Like did they like you received a call and then what was your reaction?
Yeah,
And
so yeah, I mean, it was like a what is it called? Like a conference call, right? Because they had to let go of a lot of us,
yeah.
and they gave us the heads up. And Robert Half, it's a great company. They're very supportive. But at the same time, they had to balance that with being realistic as well, because at the end of the day, they are a business,
Yeah.
and they have to do what they have to do to stay afloat, right?
Hmm.
And what happened with COVID-19 is that in terms of the hiring and the recruitment, I'm sure yourself and your clients have noticed that those requirements must have drastically decreased.
Hmm.
And the recruitment industry is usually one of the first industries hit by that when hiring comes to a halt, right? So what you have is a whole bunch of recruiters with very little to work on. So from a business standpoint, I guess and I'm not speaking on behalf of Robert Half, but from their standpoint, they had to make a decision. They did let us know it's a temporary layoff. So as soon as things return to normal or get back to normalization, they're looking to bring me back, as well as most of the others who were let go of. But that's what it is. And in terms of how I felt about it, look, people tell me that I'm a very motivational guy and stuff like that, but in reality, I'm always preparing for the worst case scenario. And I was always, and when this hit, I was well prepared for it. And one of the great things is I have built a strong network for myself and a strong personal brand for myself, which is something I encourage all of you to do, whether or not you're in recruitment or whatever industry you're in. And that's allowing me to kind of keep moving along and figuring out what my next steps are.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, you said you've been well prepared. So once you got the news, how are you coping? And as a recruiter, you probably already had the whole strategy in your head, like what I'm gonna do for the next like month or two.
Yeah, that's right.
What are your plans?
Yeah, great question, Chengeer. So I mean, Robert, again, like I mentioned, Robert Half is a great company. I do hope to return to them. So I'm not actively looking for new opportunities at the moment. So what I've been doing is instead I'm continuing building out my network and building out my personal brand, right? So what I've been doing, so right away, what I did is I started, new personal projects of my own. So the first thing I did is I started writing an ebook. So given the current environment with COVID-19, we're in a much different job search environment. I'm sure everyone would agree with that. The strategies and the tactics you're using in a prosperous marketplace is very different from how you would navigate the current marketplace that we're in. Because, and we'll speak about this later, but what's happening right now is there are companies hiring, but it's a much smaller part of the market, right? So how does the job seeker, how does the intelligent job seeker navigate that market, identify the right opportunities, and then also compete with a much larger pool of available talent in the market? So that's my first project I'm currently working on is an ebook, and I am giving it away for free. Given the whole situation with COVID, because what I want to do is I want to give back and help as many people as possible. And the second thing I'm doing is I started a new video series where I'm interviewing IT professionals, and what I'm trying to do is keep engaged with my primary audience, which is IT professionals. So given the fact that I'm not recruiting at the moment, I wanted to add value in terms of speaking with IT experts in the field and hearing about the trends and how certain skill sets are adapting to this new situation. So those are two of the main projects I'm doing right now. And of course, I'm continuing my job search tips and advice, and definitely being invited to interview with great organizations such as yours.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for sharing. So like there are so many questions to ask, but first and foremost, if you check Dean's LinkedIn profile, he has a whooping 20,000+ of followers. This is crazy. This is a substantial amount of people who are number of people, who are following your stuff.
That's right.
What is the thought process behind that? When did you start? How did you start? And how are you continue to grow it? How do you approach this, personally?
Yeah, another great question, Chengeer. You asked some really great questions. So how I got started with this is I did not start with the intention, I didn't get up one day and say, hey, you know what? I want to build I want 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 followers. That was not my thought process. I started posting on LinkedIn back in 2016, and my only motivation was, as a recruiter, I get to speak to a lot of candidates, right? So especially when you're in a staffing agency, on the recruitment agency side of the business, you're primarily focused on outbound activity, right? So I'm primarily on the phones. I'm reaching out to candidates. I'm speaking to candidates, having conversations. And what I noticed as a recruiter when I'm speaking to many candidates over the course of a day or weeks or whatever, is all the mistakes and areas that candidates make in general. You start to see patterns in terms of the mistakes that people make, and it's not just the resume; it's in the way they communicate, the follow up, how they're able to sell others on their skill set and their accomplishments and their achievements. So because of that, and the way I am is I don't it doesn't make sense for me to just sit around and complain about it. I thought, you know what, let me take it to the internet and let me see if I can at least put some tips on a day-to-day basis and help people out, because obviously people are not educated about or well informed about how to navigate their job search, how to sell themselves to recruiters in terms of their skill set and their all the amazing accomplishments that people have. So it started very simple. I just started posting on, I think it was Twitter as well as LinkedIn, and I just put 1 or 2 line pieces of advice, and I just post 3 or 4 of those every day, very, very straightforward, nothing complex, nothing fancy. I wasn't doing video back then, but every day, I put 3 to 4 tips like that, very short tips, 5-6 days a week, and I just do it over and over again. Initially, very little interaction, no likes. I remember the first time I got 5 likes, I was so happy, and I was wow, 5 people actually liked my post. So So and as I did this, it started gaining momentum, and more, and of course the second component to this is you need to keep growing your network, right? And it's kind of in a sense like the chicken, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, do you grow the audience first, or do you create content that helps grow the audience? My opinion, you got to do both. So at the same time, while I'm helping people out and giving tips and advice, I'm
Yeah.
also growing my network. I'm introducing myself to people I don't know. And also another tip right up front, folks, is you need to ignore that advice where people say, only connect on LinkedIn with people that you know. Like, that's terrible advice. You need to be connecting with everyone. Like, and it's like one big
Absolutely.
networking platform, right? And depending on how you approach it, of course, it's a great opportunity to expand your network and connect with new people, learn new things, and also in my case, it allows me to help more people as well, because the more people I know and the more people who know about me, the more people I can help, right? With my job search tips and advice.
Hmm. I just finished the article myself on like the 3 reasons why everyone should be a content creator. But what's your
Yeah.
take on this? Do you think that everyone should create content? And if yes, how does the person approach this who like never even thought about this?
Yeah, great question. So I 100% agree with that statement, and the reason why is like all of us are experts in some kind of a field, or in some respect. Now, my advice is going to be more so to deal with recruitment and job search tips and all of that. But the great thing about LinkedIn specifically is that people, for the most part, although everyone has their own motives and reasons for being there, it definitely circulates more around professional topics, right? So as a content creator, like like if you're a developer, if you're a software developer, an engineer, if you're a project manager, a business analyst, a QA analyst, or even if you're in a field outside of IT, you have a certain skill set and expertise that you know very much a lot about, right? If we can all agree on that. So you don't have to start with video or anything like that. I know even for myself, I didn't get into video until maybe, I don't know, like I think 2 years ago or something like that,
Yeah.
because it is kind of nerve-wracking, right? You're in front of a camera and you're putting yourself out there. So start with like the simple text post, like, and it doesn't have to be anything complex. Just talk about issues that you've dealt with in your day-to-day work. For example, as a project manager, something I hear from a lot of project managers is dealing with stakeholders that they feel they have to push forward, and who aren't completing the assigned tasks, or whatever they need to do to move the project forward. So that's a problem you can speak about. You can talk about how you've experienced that, of course, without disclosing any what's that term, non-disclosure kind of stuff,
Confidential information.
confidential stuff. Of course, you don't want to do anything like that, but at least at a high level, you can speak about the challenges you faced, and more importantly, how you helped move the process forward. How did you convince a stakeholder who was not moving forward to actually move forward and get that done? Because look, if you're experiencing some kind of a problem, the chances are someone else in your field is experiencing the same problem. And when you put that advice out there, and the more people you know, the more people who start following you, the more that advice and information helps. So the point here is to put that information out, and that's actually ultimately what's going to help you build your network, and eventually you build a strong network that can potentially help you in your job search. So
Hmm.
a major mistake a lot of job seekers do is they think that LinkedIn is just for going and just asking people for jobs. And eventually you can do that, but you first have to, before you have to definitely give. Like, you have to be able to give a lot, give knowledge, give experience, give expertise. That's how you build that trust and that relationship with people. And then, when if you need help at some point in the future, at least you're in a good position to see, you know what, guys, can anybody help me out with this, and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. I think it's circulating from Fanny Donegan, another influencer on LinkedIn, and
Right.
she has this expression: "Earn your right to ask first.
That's
Engage
right.
with the content, stroke people's ego. Everyone loves that, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, ask intelligent questions, be knowledgeable, follow up, and
That's
then
right.
you can ask whatever you have to ask." All right, we will slowly transition into kind of a meat of the conversation, and like, what are some industry specific? So since we're talking about creating content, what kind of content do you see like for IT professionals like creates really brings traction?
Yeah, absolutely. So for IT, again, it goes back to, as an IT professional, you experience on a day-to-day basis certain problems and issues that you come across. And also you figure out solutions as well. Like, I would suggest those are very good starting points for you to discuss in terms of what you want to talk about on LinkedIn, I'm going to speak primarily about LinkedIn because that is where I'm seeing the most success myself. So I mean that's what you do. And in terms of like what the skill sets or tools or technologies you want to speak about, I mean talk about what you're using. And you know what, at your own organization or someone or as someone being in the whatever industry you're in, you yourself will see certain trends in your industry and in your market and in your whatever sector you're in or even in your skill set. And this is another topic you can speak about, and it's very useful information for others in your network, right? And not just for others with the same skill set as you, but maybe from other industries. For example, if you're working at an organization and your organization is currently making a shift from on-premises infrastructure to cloud, like a cloud environment where
Mhm.
you're taking everything off premises and putting it into the cloud. Maybe that's something you can talk about. Because you as someone being there, you can speak about, okay, this is the situation, like, and these are some of the benefits I'm seeing in moving from actual physical infrastructure and moving things to the cloud. And you can talk about what technologies you use. Now again, you don't want to talk about anything proprietary or confidential or anything of that sort. But I mean, this puts you in a position because you're right there in the middle of it, and you're actually in an even better position than even myself to speak about such things going on, the benefits, the risks, and what you're seeing in terms of the benefits it gained for the organization.
Mhm.
So again, where you are, what you're currently doing, what you're currently seeing, like that's always a very good starting point.
What is your recommendation on the strategy? Like you definitely have a strategy outlined for yourself, but
Yeah.
for people who out there, many newcomers who just came to the country and then the situation happened, right? Or many people who, as a result, lost their jobs, right? What would be your guidance for them? Especially for your sector, IT sector?
Yeah, sure. And now, do you mean guidance in regards to getting a job or in regards
Yes,
to
in the job
getting a
hunting,
job, right?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, so another great question. Now, first thing you got to realize, and this goes back to what I mentioned before, like LinkedIn is not a place where you just show up and you say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Can someone help me out? Now, maybe there are certain, we see these certain posts where people get like thousands and thousands of likes. Uh, those do happen now, but I mean, those happen in the same way that companies like Facebook get created, right? Like it's not an everyday thing. Like these are
Yeah.
kind of standout situations. So you can certainly try that out, but keep in mind that for the most part, LinkedIn is a long-term play. It's not there for short-term gain, right? So the first advice is keep that in mind about LinkedIn, right? It's a long-term strategy, so you need to keep doing what I was just mentioning right now to build your brand. This is more so for your career, right? It's not just for getting a job. This is to build out your career and build out a professional brand for yourself. Now, in terms of actually getting a job, that's where you have my advice to you is do not depend on just LinkedIn. You need to use, and I give this advice to every job seeker I've ever represented or I've dealt with. Always use every avenue available to you. So LinkedIn, like any of the other social media platforms. You want to use job boards, Monster, Indeed, Career Builder. You want to use agencies such as JVS Toronto. You want to use staffing agencies. You want to use recruiters. You want to connect with recruiters, maybe internal, corporate, HR recruiters. So the point here is you don't want to depend on just any one thing. You want to make sure that your strategy uses every avenue out there that gets you closer to an actual opportunity, and it's ultimately getting in front of the right people that'll get you in front of the right jobs ultimately. And what I mean by that is if you I mean doing a post on LinkedIn, let's say that's one of your strategies, right, to build
Hmm.
your brand. That's a long-term thing.
Yeah.
But then after doing that, you pick up the phone, you call into a staffing agency that's recruiting for someone with your skill set. You introduce yourself, and that leads to a conversation. I mean, what's going to get you the job? What's more effective, right? In terms of the short-term strategy. So you got to use a mix of long-term versus short-term strategies, because if you're able to speak to a recruiter who is actively looking, they have an interest in your background, you know what? They might have you present your resume and get you in front of an actual decision maker who is their client. And maybe that leads into an interview. So
Hmm.
that's the short term play, right? So you got to balance both the long term strategy as well as the short term strategy. And the way you do that is through using every avenue available to you.
All right, perfect. I've just actually finished a book by Cal Newport, So Good They Cannot Ignore You, and where he's
Yeah.
introducing the concept of career capital, right? Where
Okay.
he's saying the more of rare and valuable skills you have, the more you will be able to sort of dictate the narrative for your employment, right?
Absolutely.
You will be able to kind of introduce control and autonomy. And I just thought about it, like looking at your number of followers. I just thought, hey, this is probably something like a networking capital, right? We
Yeah.
need to always work on the networking capital and on the career capital, right? Increasing valuable skills. So what would be your take? Obviously, like we talked a lot about networking capital, how to create the followership, but on the career capital side, what are your, let's say, hard skills that are super rare, super valuable in the IT right now? And what's your take on soft skills?
Yeah, sure. So on the hard skill side, I mean, look, IT is so broad and vast. Like it's impossible to cover like all the in demand hard skills. But so I would suggest you as an IT professional, you need to determine. Firstly, you need to do your market research. You need to find out, okay, what's out there in the marketplace? What are the available positions? What do these positions have in common? Like what kind of skills and tools and technologies are they looking for? And now you need to do a self-reflection evaluation, right? You need to look at, okay, this is what the demand is out there in the marketplace. What do I have? And you need to take inventory about what you have. And I would suggest take a sheet of paper and do this because it's always different when you write things down, right? So you need to figure out what's out there in the marketplace. What do I have? What do I bring to the table? What are some of my differentiators? Like what do I have that'll allow me to offer more than what the organization might be looking for, or what the marketplace might be looking for, that I bring to the table. So for example, let's say you're a Java developer, right? So most of the Java development roles obviously out there, they're looking for, surprise, surprise, Java development experience, right? Now, what do you have? So you have the Java development experience, but you also additionally have in your old company, you have experience working on with cloud technologies as well. So this might be a plus or an above and beyond that you can offer, because if you research the market, you would see that a lot of organizations are making a move to the cloud, right? Where there's a lot of cloud transformation projects going on. So this might be a value add for you to present. You can say, hey, yes, I am a Java developer, but look, I did notice that your organization is also looking to make a move into the cloud. And you know what? I do have experience as well with working with cloud technologies. So it does depend on the amount of research you put in as well. But my point is, know what they're looking for. And when I say they're looking for, I mean not just the company, but the marketplace, just the industry in general, versus what you bring to the table and what you can highlight, and all those other additional pieces of skill set and experience you can bring that shows that you're someone that gets the organization more than what they're actually investing in.
Mm-hmm. So you talk a lot about market research. How would you approach this as an IT professional?
Yeah, so great question. So there's a few ways of doing this, right? So number one is, most simplest thing if I was a job seeker is simply, and this will sound very overly simplistic even, but it's a great way to do it, and it's very practical. Just go on the job boards. Go on the job boards. Again, like I mentioned, LinkedIn, Monster, Career Builder, Indeed, and look for positions matching your skill set. And what you'll see, and if you go through the job descriptions and what the requirements are, you start to see patterns in terms of what are the in-demand skill sets, right? So that's one way. Second way is networking with other IT professionals in your industry. Now, this is something, not only IT. Well, I recruit for IT, so I can't speak on behalf of other professions, but I'm assuming it's the same with other professions, that people don't do enough of this. Like, you need to keep expanding your network, folks, and talking about the industry itself. Don't just have conversations about, okay, I like your company. How do I work for you? Can I get a job? Like, I totally get that. I totally understand why you want to do that, but also get your market research from speaking to other people in the industry as well, because they have key knowledge about what's going out there at an organizational level, on a market level, and an industry level as well. And that's going to be a great source of information for you as well, in terms of what tools they're using, what technologies, what are some of the trends they're seeing. And don't just speak to one or two people, because that's not accurate information. You need to speak to a large amount of people, so you're able to gather that information and collect that information that way. And other than that, the third method I would recommend is, there's a lot of publications that release industry specific information. Mm-hmm. So when I was at Robert Half, for example, they always used to release white papers and research papers, all this information that you as a job seeker could use in your research. So I know most of the large staffing agencies do that. And even organizations, like some organizations release, again, like white papers, research papers that show industry trends and market trends and things like that, again, you can incorporate into your research, so you can evaluate what the demand is, and you'll notice certain patterns out there as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then another question, I guess, for the audience who kind of were looking for their path into IT recruiting. What
Yeah.
are the top 3 skills that comprise like your career capital, rare and valuable skills that you've built up over the years of your career?
Okay, yeah, and so this is for people looking to get into IT recruitment. I mean, number one most important skill is being able to communicate effectively, right? Now, this does not mean that you're a good talker, because communication is not just about talking. Communication is about the exchange of information, right? So just like how myself and Chengeer, we're having a conversation now because he's asking me a question, I give a response, then I asked him like a follow-up question, maybe he gives a response as well. Communication is a two-way thing, right? It's about understanding what an individual's what the topic is and getting understanding of. Just to rewind, what I actually meant is it is actually IT recruitment on the agency side is definitely a sales profession, right? It is I like to think of it as people like to call it an HR function. It
Mhm.
definitely falls in HR, but it's recruitment is the sales function within HR. That's the way I look at it, because what you're doing is you're helping people solve problems, not just the organization who's looking for the right person, but also the right person who's looking for the right organization. So, and this brings me to what I was speaking about communication. Communication is a two-way flow, right? Because when I meet with a candidate and I'm having a conversation with the candidate, I'm not saying, hey, Chengeer, check out, yo, I got a good position here. It's got, you can do this, you can do this, you can this. No, that's not how my conversation goes. My conversation was first start off with understanding what Chengeer is currently doing, what are his career goals, is he happy at his current place of employment? If he were to make a move into another organization, like what would that look like for him? Like what's missing at his current organization? What would the ideal position in the future look like for him? So I have to first and foremost get an understanding of what Chengeer's goals are, and then based on that, then I can speak about what's available with any of the clients that are currently recruiting, right? And the ability to do that only comes with the ability to effectively communicate. So again, communication is not just about talking; it's about understanding, and then delivering the correct solution, not just to the organization but to the candidate as well. And that way, that's why it's a two-way street. And other than that, if you're looking to get into IT recruitment, it could depend on the agency. I mean, some agencies do prefer someone who has at least studied IT or comes from an IT background, because obviously IT does involve a lot of technology and tools and frameworks and a whole bunch of other things. And what most agencies find is that people who do have an understanding of IT or come from an IT background have an easier ability to grasp having those conversations with candidates. But that being said, it's not a deal breaker if you have not worked in IT, or if you haven't you don't have the IT background, but it definitely gives you kind of an added bonus.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think that's not only for those who want to find their way into IT sector. It's for the value is for everyone,
Yeah,
because
exactly. Yeah.
what we're doing here right now, we are like unraveling the thought process of an IT recruiter, right? So you
Yes.
can get some insight of how the mind of a recruiter works, and you should be able and should be ready and very well prepared to answer all those questions
That's
that
right.
he's asking. And I think the second comment that I want to say is about the sales itself. When we have like some initial rejection reaction when we hear something about sales, right? But
Yes.
sales itself, it's a very simple skill. It's a skill of creating an opinion. If you
Yeah.
can create an opinion, a certain opinion about something, that you're basically you're a salesman, right? So
Yeah.
I would say we are not so much a salesman as we are consultants. We are helping to make this knowledgeable, well-founded decision, right? And this
Yeah.
is what the
Yeah.
sales is about. Um, I would say the one more question that I wanted to ask. Initially, you've mentioned trends in the industry. You are doing interviews yourself. What do you see? What are your insights for the past months, let's say?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, due to this unfortunate situation with COVID-19, I mean, there have been some changes, but overall in IT, I mean, the hottest sectors within IT, anything to do with cloud technologies or cloud transformation projects, data analytics, very, 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 very hot field. I suggest anyone do some research if you're interested in that. Information security, cybersecurity, very important, especially right now, because so many organizations are 100% working from home, which is and people's homes are totally different technical environments versus an office, right? Because at an
Yeah.
organization, it's more secure. There's certain measures in place to protect private information. But people's homes, I mean, my home, like I'm not, I mean, it's nowhere near as secure as maybe like an organization is, right? So that's another hot field right now: cybersecurity, information technology. Information security. That's what I was looking for, the term. And other than that, and this is more specific to the current situation with COVID right now, because of this move that a lot of organizations are making from on-site to working, getting everyone 100% remote. Huge demand for technology infrastructure experts. So people who are able to set up that infrastructure, again, secure that connection between the two, as well as support the end users in using the technology and training them and all of that stuff. Also, another very hot sector right now. And aside from that, I mean, there's always, and the great thing about technology is it's always changing and always evolving. So what I tell you right now, like, who knows what's going to happen, like, 6, 7, 8, or even a year from now, like, who knows? So my biggest advice in regards to technology or IT is you need to stay well informed about it. And if not through conversations with your peers in the industry, make sure you continue to do your research online as well.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the only one thing that is left is the bonus question. What is any accomplishment or feature article you've recently achieved you would like to give a shout out for? Any content?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I appreciate you asking me that, Chengeer. So again, like I mentioned before, I am currently working on an ebook, and the title of the ebook is 4 Mindset Shifts for Navigating a Hostile Job Market. And I'm still wrapping it up. It should be completed soon. So feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. I think, Chengeer, you can share my LinkedIn profile link with everyone. So feel free to follow me. That book should be releasing sometime this week. And again, free for everyone. No catches, no gimmicks. I'm not taking your email address in exchange for it. It's just for everyone to help you navigate these type of times. Because a lot of people, like, no one could have predicted COVID-19. But the strategies, the way you think about it, the way you navigate the market is totally different from what everyone was doing before. So I definitely hope that information is helpful. And every Wednesday at 11 a.m., I do a free LinkedIn live video stream. So if you're following me, you should get a notification Wednesdays at 11 a.m. And I speak about a job search topic, and then I open up the floor for live questions. So it's a Q&A. Any job search questions you have, you're most welcome to ask me, no matter how, silly you might think the question is. For me, like, I don't think there's anything such as a silly question. So feel free to do that. And I recently wrote an article. I was inspired by myself being part of layoffs. So I wrote an article, 5 ways to deal with a layoff. So that should be helpful for any of you that might have experienced a layoff, or even if not, the strategies I talk about in that article, which can be found on my LinkedIn profile, should be helpful for you as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we'll start to wrap it up.
All right.
I thank everyone who watched this video. Thank you very much, Dean, for your wisdom and your insights. I wish you luck. I know everything's gonna be like you can see everyone who's watching. You can see that's the mindset of the person who's not gonna be jobless for a long time, right?
That's right.
Dean's gonna achieve everything in a very short period of time. Please, I encourage you, follow him on LinkedIn, follow his stuff. It's absolutely great content. Like, I personally enjoy it every day. Stay safe. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much, Chengeer. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.